Let's find a nice comfy seat. We'll just settling in into a seat where you feel like you can be at ease. Maybe letting the palms turn up. Maybe letting the eyes close. Finding your way into some level of delicateness in your respiration. There's this meeting happening, this secret meeting happening between this king and this oracle. This king is very aware of the way oracles provide answers. And so he's been thinking deeply about how to appropriately ask the question so that the oracle doesn't have the ability to blur the intention of his answer. Let's exhale and just let the chin tuck down into our sternum. And as the chin tucks, think about broadening out across the shoulder girdle. Palm up really does help to give a little bit more space here. So if it's accessible for your shoulders to turn the palms up, let's see if we can really relax across the shoulder girdle. And draw a couple rounds of breath through this chin tuck restriction, but at the same time, keep trying to soften that restriction so that each time that you cycle through your respiration, the breath gets just a little bit easier. Or we attempt to get the breath a little bit easier. And then pin your shoulder blades back from where they've landed. Wherever you've kind of gotten that openness to, pin the shoulder blades back, just squeeze back, and lift your head back to neutral. And then note if the chin is feeling like it's too far forward, we've kind of changed the center of gravity here. So maybe the chin tucks back just a little bit. And maybe as the chin tucks back, you feel that little abdominal activation required to keep the spine vertical. And then just see if you can match that upper abdominal activation with some mid and lower abdominal activation. And see if you can get the torso to just be this nice vertical container. Almost resting on the spinal column stack, but really feeling the intention of the musculature to help align that spinal column stack. And then let's once again exhale and release the chin down to the sternum. And try to relax across that shoulder girdle spectrum once again. If you're feeling restrictive at the throat, totally, maybe not expected, but possible. The goal here is to use the feedback we're getting from the throat to help us soften and expand. So that each time we cycle through a round of breath, we can feel a little bit more openness. Complete your next full cycle, and then pin the scapula back, and we'll lift the chin back to neutral. And as we get back into this neutral lift, let's do the same thing. Just note where your chin is sitting. You may come back to a more balanced spot, but if it feels like there's a little retraction necessary, just Retract the chin back. Try to create enough engagement around the abdominals that the torso feels like a really solid structure operating as one unit all the way from the sacrum through the crown of the head. And see if you can allow the body to feel a little bit more ease here. And then we'll relax the chin back to that tucked position. And think about broadening out around the shoulders once again. And let's just give ourselves just about 25 more seconds just to cycle through respiration, try to create as much release as is possible. And then when it feels appropriate, pin the scapula back. One more time. We'll lift the head. See if you can close the eyes here and just feel the torso stack as integrated as it can be. And so this king finally comes up with this question. There's this big kind of horrific event happening. His smaller kingdom has been under pressure from a larger kingdom. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll just let the eyes softly open. Let's extend our legs out in front of us. As you get the leg extension and we can kind of work our way back into this vertical spinal alignment, keep in mind you have that blanket. And so if you don't feel like staff ever works for you, just having the blanket underneath the sit bones can help get us a little bit more vertical. And all we're going to do here is just get as vertical as we can be. And then take the hands and just let them come in contact with the ground so that they provide a level of stability without being the structural integrity. We want to maintain the structural integrity of the torso with the torso musculature, but then the arms just offer kind of like a tripod of stability. And then tuck your chin. And as the chin tucks, notice what you can do with the scapula. Try to peel that space open across the shoulder girdle. And then we'll bring our chin back to neutral. And we're going to bend the knees so that the feet can come flat on the ground. And once you get the feet flat on the ground, just tuck your arms underneath your hamstrings or let them grab the sides of your legs, whatever feels most appropriate for you. And we're just going to let our chin tuck till we create kind of a little ball with the torso and thighs, but we're not concerned about how close the heels are to the glutes here. So as small a space as you can occupy with the torso and thighs, ignoring the lower legs. Try to feel how the low back posterior chain is responding to having the torso and thighs in such close proximity. And then think about relaxing the shoulder girdle here. And then let's lift our chin back to neutral, and we'll extend our legs down the mat. And just follow that leg extension into a forward fold. And so this king has been receiving pressure from this larger kingdom. And the pressure had turned to military force. And the king, very wisely, offered a deal to the king of the larger kingdom. A contest to determine if military force would be necessary. And so the king is here seeking guidance from the oracle to how he can best choose the participant for this trial. And so he lays out this whole story to this oracle. And he determines that the best question to ask is just what's going to be the determining factor. And so that's the question he asks the oracle. What's going to be the determining factor? It feels like if he knows what the determining factor is, he's going to have the best opportunity to make a choice. And the oracle gives a response kind of that he expected. One word: karma. Karma wasn't the single word answer he was hoping for, but it's the single word answer he got. Last 10 seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, let's come back into staff. Let the spine once again elongate. Really try to feel the spinal column stack upon itself and get that lift. And then let's bend the knees. And we're going to take the arms underneath the hamstrings again, or on the side of the legs, whatever feels most appropriate for you. And this time we're going to bring the heels as close together as we can get them to our torso, or to our glutes. And then let your body tuck into that ball. And think this time you can take your hands in front of the legs if that feels, one, available to your shoulders, and two, more comfortable for you. Maybe two as one, more comfortable for you and available for your shoulders. We're thinking here about making ourselves into as small a ball as possible. Like we're trying to take up as little space as we can. When you're trying to compact yourself like this, you may notice that the respiration dramatically changes. And so as you're getting into this compact space, allow yourself to tune back into that relaxed respiration cycle, so that the way we breathe here relaxes musculature, gives us more capacity across the shoulders, maybe softens any pressure at the hips. Last roughly 10 seconds here. When it feels appropriate, let's lift the head back to neutral so the torso gets long. Slide the hands underneath the hamstrings if they're not there, and let's keep the hands underneath the hamstrings or on the hamstrings, depending on what feels best for you, as you extend your legs. Trying to keep our torso and thighs as close together as we can as we go into a forward fold. Remember, you can still have knee bend here. We do not need to have the calves pushed against the mat, the hamstrings pushed against the mat. This is just about getting some forward tilt in the torso and trying to maintain that proximity of our torso and our thighs. And at the same time, experiencing how that expands the posterior chain. So with this idea of karma being the determining factor in mind, the two kings meet the next day, and the king of the larger kingdom informs this king of the smaller kingdom that the contest that will determine this smaller kingdom's fate is going to be archery. A one-on-one archery battle. And as this is announced, the king of the smaller kingdom's heart lightens. Because while the larger kingdom has an incredible archer, the smaller kingdom, kind of unbeknownst to a lot of people, has the best archer. And not only is he the best archer, he's the best person. If this king had the opportunity to choose a person in his kingdom who would have the best karma, it would be this archer. And so he recognizes that the fates are certainly smiling upon him. Last 30 seconds here. And it feels appropriate. Let's bring our spine back to vertical. Let your body just experience that. And let's take this to the wall now so that we can fully settle. So we're going to use a wall anywhere that works. You're welcome to move your mat. We're going to recreate kind of our staff position with the support of the floor underneath us. So just kicking our legs up, tucking our tailbone into the corner between the wall and the floor. And just allowing your body to relax here. Arms can be by your side. It can be a cactus. They can be a T. Hoping that we, coming out of this pretty long sequence of posterior chain expansion, forward folding, hoping to find a little bit more ease in this shape. This is truly a staff, right? We've just reorganized the orientation of where our torso is, where our legs are, and what musculature is required. On our back here, we don't need the abdominal engagement to keep the torso vertical. The floor will do that for us. And so the torso here becomes like donor musculature. You can think about the space in the torso. We want to transition that down into our legs. So the more relaxed we can be in the upper body, the more space in the posterior chain there is for the legs to be at ease. At the same time, remember that your knees can be bent. that the bottoms of the feet can rest against the wall, if that feels right and appropriate for you. The other huge advantage that this king immediately recognizes is that because the archer of the larger kingdom is such a terrible person, there is like a compounding benefit of karma here. And so he's truly thrilled that archery was the chosen thing. He could not have selected a more beneficial event. And so he leaves that meeting, a meeting that he went into very somberly, with this bounce, this lightness, this ease. And he goes directly to the home of the best archer in his kingdom. When he gets there, this archer is preparing a meal for the less fortunate of the community. And the king walks in and he sees this, and he sees all of these bowls everywhere, and his smile goes from ear to ear to beyond ear to ear. And he slaps this archer on the back and he says, he explains what's going to happen and what the contest is going to be. And the archer says, well, I better get practicing. The king says, no. Don't worry about practicing. The most important thing you can do is be the best possible person. The archer's kind of confused about that, but he takes it as a good sign. Like, wow, the king really, really does want the people of this kingdom to be good. What a great thing. In the other kingdom, almost the mere opposite happens. The king can't find this evil archer. And so he sends out his royal guard to find this guy. And they eventually arrest him in the middle of a bank heist. He's brought into the castle where the king lives and put into a specially made kind of prison cell where he has access to one thing, and that is a archery setup. All the arrows he could ever want, a target, and a long hallway. And he's thrown in this cell and told that he's not going to have the opportunity to leave the cell until he can fire all 100 arrows directly through the center of the bullseye. So much so that they split the arrow that was fired previously. kind of says, well, that's impossible. I could never do that. And the king says, well, I'd get practicing, because if you don't, you're going to be a skeleton in here. About 90 more seconds here. Remember, you can bend your knees at any time. Back in the smaller kingdom, the king has actually sent out spies to ensure that this good archer doesn't have any like secret hidden things in his life. And so they're following him around as he goes and makes these deliveries of food for people who are hungry, clothes for people who are cold. As he helps little old ladies cross the street, carries bags home for little boys who are struggling to carry the weight of the vegetables they got at the market. And the spies report back to the king, and they're like, there is not a thing in this guy's life. He is as squeaky clean as could possibly be. King's just like, good. Make sure he doesn't stop doing any of those things. Make sure he does all those things every day. When it feels appropriate for you, as it feels appropriate for you, let's bend the knees. And let both knees fall to the left here. Try to keep your right shoulder anchored and try to keep the bottom of the feet connected to the wall. So have a nice little deep twist. This is the first twist of your practice. So if this feels like it's too much, you can back that off and use the wall as kind of a brace to help stabilize. But we're also not going to be here super duper long. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll bring the knees back to neutral. And then we'll exhale the knees over to the second side. Try to keep that left shoulder anchored. And when it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Just give yourself a little squeeze here. And then let's transition from where we are back onto our mats. We'll just find staff once again. Have your blanket handy. And let's just take that blanket and from a shelf fold, just do a little half roll. So you end up with a roll and a little tail. And the tail is going to come on our body side. And then we're going to lower ourselves down so that the
neck crease makes it right into that roll. And then if you need a little more, a little less, you have the opportunity to roll the blanket in either direction. Let your body be as flat and neutral as possible here with this support in the cervical spine. If it's accessible for you, let the palms face up. Just try to feel into landing here. Like you're just allowing gravity to set your cervical spine. Days go by, weeks go by, a month goes by. And in the smaller kingdom, this archer is doing all the good deeds he does. And in this larger kingdom, this evil archer is shooting arrow after arrow through the previous arrow. And when he does that, all 100 arrows, 100 in a row, he calls out to the king and says, "Set me free. I've done my task." And the king says, "Yes, you did, but you've done it the easy way. You've done it in this hallway with no wind." And so the king lines up this series of infantrymen with these giant fan contraptions, and they just start pushing and pulling wind from both sides of this hallway. And he puts a flag every 10 feet. And he says, "You need to do it with wind. The contest is outside." And so this evil archer just kind of like takes an arrow, snaps it, and throws it down. Says, "Bring me a bundle of arrows." In the smaller kingdom, the king is now supplying ingredients so that this good archer can make larger and larger batches of stew to give out to those in need. And it's making such an impact. But the like people of the city are physically changing. They're getting healthier, bigger. Almost no one is walking around in this like frail, sickly state anymore. Give ourselves about 40 more seconds here. Really try to feel gravity, how it is working to neutralize your spine and how it is working across the cervical spine to really build in that arch architecture. And then when it feels appropriate, let's pull the blanket out from underneath us. We can just set that to the side for now. Let your head come to the mat. Let your whole body be neutral and at ease, and just feel this integration. Notice how the cervical spine feels different. And then let's bend the knees. Kneecaps point towards the ceiling. Let your arms be a cactus or T here so that you have a little bit of a base, and take your left ankle across your right thigh. Get a little external rotation of the left hip. And then when it feels appropriate for you, really trying to maintain the neutrality of your torso. Work the left foot so the bottom of the left foot can come down on the right side of your mat or floor, so that the left kneecap is roughly pointed straight towards the ceiling. The bottom of the right foot is roughly pointed towards the left side of your mat or room. And we likely have some pressure here on that lateral hip flexor area. Try to relax into the shoulder girdle and your respiration to offer a little more ease to that hip flexor. And if it doesn't feel possible, or the hip flexor feels like it's too tight, you can lower the left knee so that it points more towards the top of your mat behind you instead of the ceiling. And then think about energizing into the, if you have the space to do it, think about energizing into the anterior hip crease on the left hip, like you're trying to push that down towards the bottom left corner of your mat. That's only if you have this space, if you feel like you have the room for a little expansion around that hip. So eventually the king of the smaller kingdom goes to visit this good archer. And the good archer is like, receives him and just is so appreciative of the new supplies that are coming in to help feed the community. And he takes the king around and he shows the king all of these people whose lives have been benefited. But he also says to the king, you know, this is becoming such a huge thing. And yet we have this contest coming up. I need to figure out a way where I can have some space to practice. And the king kind of says, nonsense, nonsense. You're the best archer in the world. Feeding the people is the most important thing you can do. And the archer kind of like looks at him, kind of sighs a little bit. Says, you're right, you're right. A week later, this good archer is like kind of having some panic attacks. It's like, you know, I've heard some rumors about what's going on in the other kingdom. I need to find a way to practice. So he goes out very early in the morning before any of his other duties, and he sets up his archery. And before he even takes the first shot, the king arrives. His spies had told him that this was happening. And the king says, no, 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 no. Don't worry about this. Get inside, start making food. And the two kind of get into a little bit of a disagreement here. He's like, food is important, feeding the people is important. At the same time, saving the kingdom is important. And you've put all of this pressure on me to save the kingdom through my skill of archery, and yet you're not letting me do that. And it's at this time the king kind of confides in this good archer. And he tells him the story, how he went to meet the oracle, and how the fates are smiling upon them. Last about 40 seconds here. He tells this archer that he asked the specific question, what will be the determining factor? He was told it was karma. And so, while archery is certainly the contest, karma is the determining factor. And that puts this good archer at ease. He knows the way he's lived his life. He knows all the good deeds he's done. He knows all the good deeds he's doing. When it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees back to neutral and let that left foot come back down on the mat. Feel the asymmetry in the body here and let the knees sway a little bit just to re-land, reintegrate, rebalance things. Maybe just another 20 seconds to explore this. And when it feels appropriate, knees back to neutral. We'll let the right ankle come across the left thigh, and we'll let the bottom of the right foot come down on the left side of the mat. Once again, right kneecap points towards the ceiling. If that doesn't feel appropriate, you can soften that by pointing the right kneecap more towards the space behind your mat. If you do have the space, you can start to hollow out that anterior hip crease on the right side by energizing that down towards the bottom right corner. And then we just relax and breathe here. Meanwhile, the bad archer is practicing in this prison hallway with these infantrymen, creating these huge wind gusts. And he's starting to dial in more and more so that the arrows are splitting the center of the previous arrow he fired more and more frequently. The good archer is comforted by the words of the king and has more or less put all thoughts of archery out of his head. And he's focused exclusively on doing good. The day of the event finally comes. And as it turns out, it is one of those days where the wind just feels like it could rip the trees down at any moment. And the two archers, one just released from a prison cell and one coming from serving the community, take their place at this line. 100 meters away, there's this stack of hay bales with this little tiny 4-inch target on it. And the communities of both kingdoms are coming out to watch this event. And they essentially create this like hallway of people on both sides. The two archers have exceptionally different backgrounds, exceptionally different demeanors, but very similar skill sets. When it feels appropriate for you, we're going to bring our knees back to neutral. And as the knees come back to neutral, the feet come flat on the ground. Just allow your body to explore here, reintegrate here, re-land here. The good archer is exceptionally nervous. The crowds, the hallway of people, the wind, the fact that he hasn't shot an arrow in months are all weighing on his mind. But the king comes up with a big smile, claps him on the back, and just says, "Remember your karma." When it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees back to neutral. Ask ourselves if there's anything that we might want, that we might need, that we might benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there is, let's offer that to ourselves now. If we have everything we need, if we have everything we want, if we're ready for some stillness, let's drift into a shape where we can appreciate some stillness now. The king of the bigger, larger kingdom tells the king of the smaller kingdom he can choose whether his archer goes first or second. And with a little smugness, he says, "Oh, we'll go first. We want to put the pressure on." And so this good archer makes his way up to this line, draws his bow, pulls an arrow, sets his sight on this distant target, pulls the arrow back. This crowd of people on either side watching. And this trepidation kind of trembling through him. And he's just repeating in his mind, karma, 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 karma. And he lets the arrow fly. Just at ease here, in stillness here.
The arrow flies down and it hits the target. Not dead center, but it's a great shot. The king of the smaller kingdom turns to the king of the larger kingdom and claps him on the back and says, and this is where we see karma kick in. The evil archer steps up, pulls the arrow back, fires it, and it goes directly through the center of the target. And the smaller kingdom's king jaw drops open. Larger kingdom king turns and claps him on the back and says, you never did understand that, Oracle. Karma isn't a tally of good and evil. Karma is a culmination of your actions. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes. To our wrists and our ankles. Our elbows, our knees. Shoulders, hips, neck, head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of our body will move, and we'll utilize that movement to transition our way back into a seat. In this seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid. Eyes closed. We'll inhale our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that good does not prevail because we want it to or because it should. It prevails because of the actions of women and men like you and me. And see how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, guys. Love the heck out of you. Appreciate the heck out of what MLK did for this country. Tomorrow, no practice. So I will see you next Sunday, and we'll do this again. Love you. Mwah.